Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Words from Behind the Desk. I'm so excited to have you here. And actually, I'm going to remove you real quick, our guest of honor. Oops, sorry. But I am so excited to have you guys here for another edition of Words from Behind the Desk. Rania, it's always a pleasure to be in your presence via,
Thank you.
me being at home and you being at your home.
Yes.
I am so excited about today's conversation, I have to say. First off, guys, my name is Vyky Rifai, Rania Arwani. If you guys do not know who she is, you should. Rania Arwani of Arwani Law Firm, one of the amazing attorneys here in Florida. And Rania, we have an amazing guest today.
We do.
I'm crazy excited. An amazing. All right. But before we get into that, guys, if you haven't already, please make sure you like this web series. If you haven't already, please make sure you share it. That way we can show it to more people and give this badass person that we have on the show today more eyes, because she's amazing. I really, really can't wait to get into this conversation. But if you haven't already, make sure you like us, make sure that you share us, and don't forget, this is live and we will see your questions and your comments. So if you have a question or comment,
okay, bring her in already.
Bring her in. Why am I still talking? Guys, we have an amazing person today. We have the candidate for state attorney of the ninth, this judicial
the ninth judicial circuit.
Thank you. Deborah,
Orange and Osceola County.
of Orange and Osceola County. Deborah, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Oh my gosh. Seriously, I have been in anticipation for this conversation for a little bit now, and I am super excited to deep dive in some questions with you, because I just love hearing you talk and love hearing how you're a superhero without us even knowing that we have a superhero here in Orlando and Osceola County, Orange and Osceola County. You see how I did that?
Because she needs the cape, right? He's only missing the cape, correct?
I was thinking about getting one made with like a Deborah Barra, I was thinking about getting one.
I
made.
like that
Deborah,
idea.
If you want to, I'll send one to you. I have to.
It's just my parents.
Your parents have one already, don't they?
Oh, right. I'm sure they'll order one as soon as they see this. Yeah.
See? Yes. Deborah Barra. Yes. Deborah, for those of us who don't know you, or not me, for those of them who don't know you, can you just tell us a little bit about who are you? Who is Deborah?
Absolutely. This is one of the hardest questions for me, because it's personal and it's weird to talk about yourself, but I will do it for you guys. So
thank you.
You're so welcome. I am the youngest of three. I have two older brothers. I've been super competitive with them my whole life. I'm the baby. I'm the only girl. So naturally, I was very spoiled as a small child. My parents are still married. And in fact, today I have to give a shout out to them. It is their 53rd wedding anniversary today.
Wow.
So happy anniversary, Mom and Dad.
Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad.
I graduated from Dr. Phillips High School. I went on to work at a nonprofit. I went to Flagler College in St. Augustine, which, if you've ever been to St. Augustine, it's absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful. We had a thing where it was 6 minutes if you made the light to get to the beach. I was obviously very concerned with studies when I chose Flagler College, but it was just gorgeous. It was a great experience. I went to UF Law School, and then I came back after law school to this community, because this is the community that I grew up in, and this is the community that I love.
I love that.
That's amazing.
I love it. And the community that you serve with your superhero cape or not.
Well, yeah, I have been prosecuting cases for 17 years in Orange and Osceola County, and pretty much have done the gamut in terms of everything from misdemeanor to the death penalty and everything in between. I've also been a manager under 3 different elected state attorneys, and which has been a great experience, because I've got really a front row seat in terms of what works and what doesn't work. And so I'm hopeful to bring all of that experience together, my trial work, my management experience, and be elected state attorney so we can make good, lasting change here.
Yes, yes. So let me ask you a question, Deborah.
Absolutely.
A case, how does a case start at the prosecutor's office?
Yes. So what happens is when somebody is arrested for a crime, so the police go out, they make the arrest, and then they gather all the information and they send it to my office. We review the information that we get, and if we need additional information, we will request the law enforcement officer to go get it. And then we make what's called a filing decision. So what a lot of people don't know is that an officer can arrest you and you can be held in jail for 33 days. And if no charges are put on you by my office, then they will basically open up the jail and let you go. There's no conditions. That's it. So it's really important for us if we were going to say, charge somebody with an armed carjacking, we want to make sure that we get those charges on that person within the 33 days. And then that's what starts the court cycle. So from that point forward, then we get trial dates and we take depositions and it kind of gets the ball rolling. So I always say, law enforcement, they do the initial part and they can, take away somebody's freedom for 33 days. But we potentially could take away somebody's freedom for the rest of their life. And so it's really important to get it right in whatever case, because, if you're wrongfully accused, you need to know that the state attorney is going to take care of you, that we're going to see it for what it is, because that is safety. And if you are the victim of a crime, you need to know that the state attorney is going to be there for you to get you justice, because that is also keeping the community safe.
Exactly.
That's good.
So let me as not all cases that are referred to the state attorney are prosecuted, correct?
Correct.
And I'm assuming some of these cases that are not prosecuted are based on he said, she said, not really any physical evidence for the state attorney to move forward on a case, correct?
Correct.
So how do you deal with these kind of cases, Deborah? Do you have any instances that, of he said, she said, and you picked up a case, and what are these cases? Are they rape? Are they what type of crimes are based on these kind of cases?
Yeah, so you can have pretty much any crime could be ultimately he said, she said, but I think significantly, and where you see it the most, is in sex crimes, sexual abuse. Oftentimes you have people that commit those crimes and they're smart about it. And I don't believe in rewarding people because they commit crime well. You don't get any props for that. And so what my vision is and how I have practiced law is that if I meet with a victim of this type of crime, and it is only her word against his, and men can absolutely be victims of sex crimes. So I just wanted to put that out there. But in my example, I'll just use her. And I talk to her and I know that this happened to her. I believe her 100%. And if she is willing to go through the court system, because that it is not victim friendly at all. But if she's willing to take a swing, then I'm willing to take a swing, because we need to get justice. We can't reward people for doing it well. And here's the thing with sex crimes, even if you have DNA and it's an adult, then the defense is always, oh, it was consensual. Even if there's bruising with DNA, the defense is, oh, she liked rough sex. So no matter what, it's a question of credibility. And I believe that victims of crime, they deserve to have their day in court. And if I believe that they can convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt, well, then we're going to go forward.
Yes. Okay. So give me an example of such a case that you handled.
Sure. So there's this one case where this is what happened. So 95% of the abuse took place in a different county, a different jurisdiction, a different state attorney. And we had in Orange County one case of abuse. And what it was a child rape case. And what happened was the case went over to that other county, and the victim ended up getting a letter in the mail from that prosecuting agency saying, "I'm sorry, there's not enough evidence to go forward with your case." Not a single phone call, not a meeting, nothing, just a letter in the mail. And I cannot imagine what that would feel like as
not at all. No.
That's horrible.
So I got a phone call from a law enforcement officer who said, "Hey, this is what just happened. Would you mind meeting with this girl?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so I met with her. Now, when I met with her, she was in her early 20s, and she was describing abuse that took place when she was 11 years old. And you know, victims of this type of crime, they don't want to remember the details. That's something that they try to forget as they move forward. So of course the details weren't all there, but when she told her story, it was very clear to me that this happened exactly the way she said it. And this is what she said. She said that when she was little, her cousin, who is the defendant in this case, would babysit her. And he would come over, and she had brothers, and he would have the brothers go outside and play. And then he would bring her into the bedroom and lock the door. And then he would abuse her. And on one occasion, the family had moved from that other jurisdiction to our jurisdiction. And it happened one time in our jurisdiction. She said that she didn't tell anybody about it. This was a family member. It was her cousin. She knew the dynamics of the family. And I think a lot of people don't give kids enough credit.
Right.
They understand, if I tell, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
And he also threatened her. And so she had all of this carrying around in her for years and years. And so fast forward to now, she's in her early 20s. She's going to school at UCF, and she had been able to avoid him for most of her teenage years. But it was her mom's birthday, and her mom wanted to celebrate with the family. And of course, again, nobody knows any of this has happened. So they get in the car together, and he's there, and she couldn't get away from him because they were piling into a car, and it just so happened that she was seated next to him. And so they go to the restaurant, and she's about to get out and put her name in with her mom at the restaurant. And as she stood up, he took his hand and just kind of touched her in her private parts.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just to say,
Just makes me mad.
I have control over you is basically what he was saying. And, she's 22 years old. She'd never talked about it. So she gets out of the car and she goes into the restaurant, and she tells her mom that she's not feeling well. And her mom obviously doesn't know any of this and is giving her the riot act. Like, come on, don't be moody. This is my birthday. You need to celebrate. And so she asks to go into, she's going to the restroom, and they start texting. And so finally, the 22-year-old says, "Mom, just come to the bathroom." So mom goes into the bathroom, leaves everybody out at the table. And when she goes into the bathroom, she sees her daughter, and her daughter is full on tears. And her daughter tells her for the very first time what happened.
Wow.
And, mom then, of course, starts crying because all of those emotions from a mother's perspective, I didn't protect. How did I not see it? Where moms are not responsible. Let me just say that if you are a mom listening and something like this has happened, it is 100% on the perpetrator. There's really nothing you could have done. And so the 22-year-old tells her mom, "Please don't tell dad," which I think is cute in the moment, because they're always going to tell the dad. But
of course they're going to tell the dad.
And she's still trying to protect, and she doesn't know if she's trying to protect herself or what she's trying to protect, but she's still trying to.
Right. I mean, this was a secret
Whatever.
for years and years, and she's probably now feeling like she's losing control.
Right.
Like all of it's out there now. And so mom says, "Okay, yeah, let's have your friend pick you up. They're going to take you home, and I won't tell dad." So mom goes back out to the table, sits next to dad, her husband, and is sitting there and looks down at the end of the table at this person who she loved and trusted, and sees him laughing at something, like a big smile on his face, and she couldn't take it. So she tells her husband. Her husband hears this and at the table says, I need you to come with me. They step outside.
I would have liked to be there when they stepped outside, Vyky.
We just lost Deborah for a second, which is fine because I have goosebumps everywhere right now. As a parent, that is so difficult to. It's just difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult. I have chills everywhere to be in that position. And then to have your child come and tell you, it's hard to fathom. And to know that there are people out there like Deborah and yourself that are there you know what I mean? Advocating for voiceless people is just, it's so powerful.
But do you believe that the other county sent her a letter in the mail telling her they're not going to prosecute you? Oh my God.
That is bonkers. That is crazy. A letter. That's what I get after I have enough bravery to say something. You're going to send me a letter?
Yeah. She was silent for such a long time, and the minute she goes out and reports it and gets enough courage to move forward, she gets a letter saying, you don't matter.
Imagine.
And I don't know.
Oh, there she is.
Can you guys hear me? I'm not sure.
We can hear you. We can't see you yet, but we can hear you.
Okay, I will work on that as we go here. But if it's okay, I'll just continue if that's all right.
Please do.
Absolutely. We're over here. Yeah, we're still having our own conversation about
I'm waiting to see what happened when they stepped outside.
Right.
Yeah, so as soon as he gets outside, the dad confronts him, and he literally runs away. If you notice in the story, they all came in one car. So he takes off running. And he was living at their house at the time because they were helping him out and giving him a free place to stay. And so all of his stuff, everything, he just left there and never returned. So that is the case that I had. And of course, that happened exactly how she said it. I mean, those
why else would he run?
Exactly. And why, she did everything in her power to not tell. There's no motive for her to make this up.
No.
And so even though I only had one count of abuse, and it was from years and years, 11 years earlier, where she was foggy on the details, but I felt like it was enough to bring that before a jury and to show them this is what happened and we need to fight for people like her. And so fortunately, we didn't have to do that. He ended up, once I filed the charges, he accepted a plea because she really didn't want to testify in public, which I completely understand and respect. And so he ended up ultimately going to prison and being labeled a sex offender for the rest of his life, because that is who he is and that is what he did.
Wow. That is. Wow. I know. I was telling Rania, I was getting goosebumps as you were speaking, just because it's so difficult to think of somebody coming forth in that bravery and then getting a letter in return. But having somebody like you who's like, I hear you, I'm listening to you, and I'm going to do everything I can to support you, and her getting the support and I know that doesn't help the victim, but I mean, it helps a little bit make me feel like validated if I was a victim.
Yeah.
She was believed, Vyky. Yeah. Deborah, you believed her.
Well, we can't
completely
change anything that happened, but if what and honestly, she did it. She's the amazing one. Honestly, she's the one who had the courage to tell, to have the courage to move forward. I mean, it was really incredible to be a part of that and to witness.
I can only imagine.
And yeah, it's so, it is really the strength that you see in people is incredible. And so I'm super proud of her. And if I can play a small role in giving even just an ounce of closure to something and to help people get their strength back, that's worth it. I mean, that is why I do what I do.
That is incredible. Yes, seriously,
Deborah,
thank you.
That is amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And I would like to see you, Deborah. Can we see you?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened. I could probably attempt to log back on.
Go ahead and do that. We got you for a second.
We'll wait.
Okay. All right. Sorry, guys.
No, you're fine. Good. Rania, thinking about that situation, how it speaks volumes for that young lady to hold on to that for so long and then decide to speak up. Can you imagine being that young and harboring all of that?
And then not being believed the first time. And then, thank God, she came across Deborah, and Deborah went forward and, prosecuted.
And then not being believed the first time. Can you imagine what kind of problem and cause that it would create for her in her future dealings in life? That's just, I would feel at a loss of, is this humanity? That I can speak up and say something and somebody is not going to believe me based off of, you know what I mean? Oh gosh.
Being abused for such a long time and just, nothing.
I can't imagine. Deborah is still not back on yet, but I honestly, I can't. And then of course, being a parent, that it hurts. It hurts to even
it does
think about anything. She just came back on, and Deborah, we have you back.
Hi. Sorry about that.
You're good.
You're fine. You're here. We can see you now also.
Perfect.
But you know what, Deborah, that brings me to another issue we have here in Florida, which is human trafficking. Human trafficking is a huge problem here in especially Central Florida, because Disney, a lot of people, coming in, coming out, tourists, and what have you. What are your plans dealing with human trafficking, with, minors and adults and in our office here?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for recognizing that it's a problem. I think, a lot of people in the community, the idea of human trafficking just seems so foreign. They think of like Taken with Liam Neeson and, like surely
in another country.
Exactly. Unfortunately, you're absolutely right. It happens every day in Central Florida. I had the privilege of prosecuting successfily the first life sentence for a human trafficker of a minor in the state of Florida. And it was, this guy who would pick up runaways, basically get them addicted to drugs if they weren't addicted already. And they would have to reach a quota in terms of how much money they would make for him each day. And if they didn't make that quota, they would get beaten. And this, poor girl, this particular juvenile, she had the flu one time and still had to make her quota. I mean, there is a world out there that, fortunately, not a lot of people are in or see, which is a really good thing. But we have to get more aggressive in the prosecution of human trafficking and the investigation of human trafficking. We have a lot of tourists, a lot of people come in here for events, and it's usually, it happens every day, but it increases whenever there is a big event. People come in from out of town. They're looking for certain types of people, and we are a hub for that, obviously. Obviously before the world ended and COVID-19, but eventually we're going to come back to normal. And, human trafficking is still going on every single day. We need to be proactive in terms of getting out on I-Drive and areas of Kissimmee, 192, and forming relationships with the people who are out there so that we can identify when it's happening and we can have law enforcement respond immediately. that we don't have to wait for all these crime line tips. Like we need to be out in the field already. And then we need to have aggressive prosecutors who are willing to go in and fight for these victims, because honestly, there are difficult cases because typically they involve people who may have already done prostitution, you know, on their own. They're addicted to drugs already. And so a lot of times you have to explain to the jury that this is different. This isn't just prostitution. First of all, it's a minor. When it's a minor, obviously
it's not. It's rape. Yeah, it's rape.
Right.
It is a crime no matter what, and it's a serious crime, and you need to go away. But we know when it's an adult who may be a prostitute, may already have been addicted to drugs, they can still be trafficked. And in fact, the traffickers prey on the most vulnerable. You know, they're not going to go in to a high school and pick the straight A student who is a member of all these clubs, and, you know, no, because they know that that person has the confidence to say, get the hell away from me. It's the people who don't have that confidence, who grew up in broken homes, who have faced so much adversary circumstances that they're looking for a savior. And these people swoop in, they tell them that they're the savior, and then it just evolves into a trafficking situation. So yeah, we need to do something about that.
So let me tell you a story. I am a guardian ad litem, was on this specific case. I did not know that human trafficking was one of the issues. The child was removed from her parents' house because of, you know, abuse and what have you. And during the time I was on the case, I found out that she has money that she's not supposed to have. Where is she getting that money? And that led me down to figuring out she is being trafficked as a child.
Wow.
I mean, it's a case that I have, you know, it hits home, and people don't know how the percentage of human trafficking victims we have here in Florida, especially Central Florida, is bigger than what people think. It's a bigger problem than what, you know, like my sister knows, or my family or friends. To them, that's something foreign. And just like you said, they think someone is going to come in, kidnap them, and then human traffic. No, it's not. It's a runaway child. It's a child that wants money. And to the child, another thing is they don't believe they're being trafficked. They don't believe they're being abused. They're like, no, I'm with him because he is nice to me. What do you mean he's nice to you? Because he is. And you go into a completely different, you know,
they love
mind state.
They love their abuser because this is somebody who pays them attention. It gets them the drugs that they need, and provides protection. And so it is this
security, protection. Exactly. Protection, I think, is a big one.
Which makes your job, Deborah, more difficult, because at this time you're actually like trying to convince this child or the adult that, no, this is a bad man. He's not on your side. He's abusing you. And you start the process of getting them out of that situation and prosecuting the trafficker, which is like double the work.
Well, yeah. And you know, we try to provide resources so that they feel safe, so that they can be honest about the circumstances. But like you said, they don't even really recognize that they're being trafficked in the moment. And so we hope that the separation gives perspective, as it often does just in life in general. And we see that a lot. If they are separated for a period of time, then it clicks more. But when you're in the abuse, you really don't see it for what it is.
Yes, they're groomed, they're abused, they don't see it. They need the help. And thank you, Deborah, for being there for the victims.
Absolutely.
So that takes me into another question, and I have a lot of questions, Deborah. So
we have a quick comment real quick.
We do.
Let me go ahead. We do. Thomas Lair says, Deborah Barra is one of my heroes because of everything she has done to successfully prosecute traffickers. # stop human trafficking.
Thank you, Tomas. It's great to hear from you. And Tomar says we have worked together in the past, and he's a wonderful asset to the community and what he's doing to fight against human trafficking.
He's an
Same.
Thank
Go
you so
ahead,
much for
Deborah.
all you do as well. So my question, Deborah, is what other difficult cases have you faced? Let's say unpopular within your office.
So unpopular in the office, I would say unpopular with management
Okay.
was a case where I had an individual who had been in a car accident. He definitely had a back injury, and unfortunately, he got addicted to pain pills. And he went to he did a fraudulent prescription for pain pills. He got the prescription, so he was possessing over 30 pills of the controlled substance. And then they came in and arrested him for trafficking based on the amount of pills. So its trafficking amount was the equivalent to a 7-year prison sentence, was the mandatory minimum sentence for this guy. And that case became mine, and I reviewed it and I looked at his history and everything. And what I did is I looked to see if he had ever gotten treatment, and he never did for his addiction. And so I ended up offering a plea that he accepted to probation. And part of the requirements was that he get drug treatment as a result. Well, I came off of a substantial mandatory minimum sentence, and the police department called over to my supervisor, and my supervisor called me into his office. And honestly, at the time, I'm a younger prosecutor. I definitely came off of that mandatory minimum sentence, and so I didn't know what was going to happen. And so I sat down and I explained myself that, I believe my job is to do justice, and to send this person to prison for that long is not justice. And I will not do it. I'm a barred attorney. I have a bar card. I have to do what I think is right, fair, and just. And, thankfully, awesome. I didn't get fired. So
thank God.
If that person is listening, thank you for not firing me. And,
yes, thank you.
And and I've had a very great career in the office. But I think that's what I love about being a prosecutor, is that you have so much power, and when you use that power to do good, I mean, you can use it to protect people as much as it is to punish people. And it's a great responsibility, but it's a wonderful opportunity to be able, in a position to, in my opinion, do what is right.
Yes, and doing what is right is not always an easy thing, especially as an attorney, as a prosecutor. It's not always easy, because you might, have to go harder or have to go softer.
Against the grain.
Yeah.
You have to go against the grain.
And I have a ton of stories. So if you guys are just like, hey, cut the stories, by all means.
I love your stories. I love your stories.
Okay, so here's another one. In terms of going against the grain, there was a police chief, the chief of Windermere Police Department, and I was prosecuting an individual. His name is Scott Bush, and he's in prison right now. I was prosecuting him for molesting his children. And what happened in this case is that when they were younger, they reported it. But it turned out that Scott Bush was really good friends with the Windermere police chief. And the case went nowhere. And whenever anybody reports a capital sex crime, a capital offense, under the statute, they have to submit it to the state attorney's office. And this police chief didn't. And it just sat. So these kids never got any justice. And they grow up, they move out of state. One of them is in California, and she has kind of a flashback to the abuse. And she tells somebody about it, and they said, well, have you done anything? You should report it. And she said, well, we did, but nothing happened. So it got brought to my attention, because at the time I was the chief of the sex crimes unit. And so I looked into it, and sure enough, we had never received anything about this. And so I met with the victims, and I decided to go forward, and I decided to prosecute this individual. It was their father years later. And he was convicted. But what was interesting and unique about this case is that the defendant called the police chief of Windermere to testify on his behalf. And the police chief took the witness stand and said, this was never reported, or no, he said that we sent everything over to the state attorney's office and it was unfounded and we shouldn't be here today, basically. And that was a total lie. And I'm the prosecutor in that case. And I knew that he just perjured himself on my witness stand. And I have zero tolerance for that. Yes.
Zero tolerance, sir.
Zero tolerance. So nobody can come into my courtroom and commit perjury, especially, well, not especially, nobody. And here's the police chief doing it. So he was charged with perjury and I testified against him. I couldn't prosecute him because I was a witness now. So I testified against him and he was convicted of perjury and he went to prison as well. Because as the police chief, but that needs to happen. I mean, there is corruption in Central Florida and we need to take care of it. Enough is enough. I'm clearly not part of the good old boy network.
No, you're not.
Right.
For a variety of reasons. And I don't care who you are. If you commit a crime, you're going to be held responsible for it. And
that is amazing, Deborah, just to hear that someone lied on the stand on a case that you're handling and you went after them. And it's the chief police of Windermere.
Yeah, that's going against.
That is amazing. That just says volume.
Oh my gosh. Like crazy against the grain. That's if for me, a state attorney, I want somebody who I know is going to fight for things that are just, not, oh, this is my friend over here, so I'm going to take care of my friend, but you over there, you'll get a letter. Do you know what I mean? So I think that it speaks volumes for who you are.
Yeah, she went after the dad and then went after the chief.
Come on.
And just as a side note, the dad was convicted on the same day that the chief was arrested.
Oh my God.
Wow.
It was a good day.
What did you do that night? How did you party? You should have invited us.
I don't drink, but if I did, I would have had a drink.
That is amazing, Deborah. Again, just goes to show how amazing you are. And this is why I call you a badass and a superhero, because I mean, that little girl that you helped also, the victims are superheroes in and of themselves, but you are a special type of badass to me. So I have to keep like, yes, Deborah, yes.
Yes. All of us have to do that. All of us. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question that's, a kind of question that is, on CNN and everywhere else and with what's going on in the country right now. So Deborah, how will you handle fatal use of force incidents involving the police in your office?
Yeah. So what I will do is I review them personally. Those are things that I've been a homicide prosecutor, and those are homicides when they come into my office. Yes. I don't care, again, who the shooter is. I don't care if they wear a uniform or not. I have somebody who is dead because of actions of somebody else, and I review it as such. And I have no problem prosecuting police officers. I know, in the nation and everything that's going on, and it's rightfully going on. And I think that we're somewhat fortunate in our jurisdiction in terms of prosecuting police officers, because I know in my 17 years, I have personally prosecuted three different officers from beginning to end because they committed crime. And again, I don't take any joy in prosecuting police officers. I don't take any joy in prosecuting anyone. It's just that if you violate the law, then, and I can prove it beyond reasonable doubt, you are going to be held accountable for it, no matter who you are. And, I think it's important to know that every profession has bad people in it. We can look at priests. You can look at presidents. You can look at, pick a profession, and
teachers.
They exist, and you have to be willing and able to see it and to do something about it. And that is what I will do and continue to do.
Okay.
I love it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Let me think of, I was gonna make a comment and I forgot. And this is what happens when I am really listening to you, Deborah.
I know, I'm listening intensively.
Concentrating so much that I kind of forgot what I was gonna say. But no, I'll tell you what I was gonna say. So in your current position, are there cases that you would like to prosecute, but you are not given the opportunity to do so?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes is the answer. I believe that public corruption isn't being prosecuted to the level that we can. I, especially in my current position, you know, there are times where we get citizen complaints, and what we currently do is we send that over to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to investigate. And sometimes they can't, you know, they don't have the manpower or for whatever reason. And so those complaints just kind of hang out there. I think that that is wrong. I think public corruption for a community is huge as something that affects everyone. You know, if you believe as a citizen that your elected officials can get away with whatever they want to get away with, that is a problem, and that affects every single person. And so I will form what I have entitled the Government Accountability Unit. And it is a unit that will be comprised of investigators and prosecutors, where they will be trained and they will go after and investigate these complaints. And we have a grand jury. A grand jury is basically something that we can impanel as the state attorney's office, but it's members of the community, and it's really their investigation. We are the legal advisors to the grand jury. And so we can submit evidence into the grand jury, and they can make a recommendation on the charges, and they can bring forth an indictment on corruption or whatever the case may be. And I think we need to utilize our grand jury more, and we need to really delve into some of these citizen complaints, because they're real, they exist, and they need to be addressed.
You have a lot of work ahead of you. I can hear it in your voice. You're like, I'm going to do all these things
ahead of her.
And I don't know how much sleep I'm going to get.
Exactly.
Well, I'm excited. I mean, I've been implementing other people's policies for 17 years. And, you know, it's been a privilege, and I had great experience, but I'm at the point where I'm just about to be able to implement my own. And to be so close to take, you know, my knowledge and my experience and to see it for what it is, and to really tackle the issues that I know exist. I mean, it just fires me up. Honestly, I'm excited just talking about it with you guys.
I love it. And guys, do not forget, so sorry, I have to do what I do. Guys, voting day is August 18th. Yes. It is important now more than ever.
It's urgent. To get out and not vote. Important. It's urgent.
It's urgent. This is our city.
This is it.
And this is our ground level. We see, if anything, more so now, how things trickle down to where our city is. Deborah is going for our city. How amazing is that? Hearing what it is that she's already done. And if you haven't and you just jumped on for any reason, make sure that you please visit her website, deborahbarra2020.com, because this is important. It's urgent, as Rania says. And again, this is our city. So make sure you guys get out there and vote August 18th for our city.
So when we say our city, just a clarification, it's Orange and Osceola counties. So it's not just our city. It's a bigger city.
All of us, guys. Orange and Osceola, wherever you are.
Vote. Okay.
Vote. Thank you.
Vote. Yes. All right. So I do have a question, which I do remember. Yeah. So please describe a situation in which you took an unpopular position that angered or offended the office which you work for, which other than what you just mentioned and the drug case, trafficking one. What other?
You know, I think I think anytime that you do the right thing, it's hard for some people. You know, sometimes doing the right thing means that you make everybody mad.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, I've had that experience over and over and over, is that, you know, you have cases where, say, the victim's family wants the death penalty for, you know, breaking into their home, which obviously we're not going to do that. Right. And then you have, you know, the defense side, they want probation for an aggravated battery, where, you know, we're not going to do that either. And so, you know, you have to, I think, have the confidence and the experience to see everything for what it is. You can't, you know, when I first became chief assistant state attorney, I literally got phone calls where it was some of my colleagues, and they would say, "Hey, I haven't asked you for a favor yet." And I was like, "Yeah, what would make you think that you're entitled to a favor?
What kind of favor are you going to be asking me?"
I know.
Right? And
you want to go out to dinner?
It would be about their case, their client, like, "Hey, give my guy a break." And, you know, I don't know, maybe that works on some people, but that doesn't work on me. We're not, this is about people's lives. We're not going to do personal favors for whoever's in the community. I don't, you know, I have friendships that are completely separate from what I do at work. And what I do at work, friendships have absolutely nothing to do with it. And I'm somebody who will stick to that 100%. And so, you know, that can make me very unpopular. I'm sure that there are people in this community who do not want me to be state attorney because of that viewpoint.
Deborah, we want you to be the state attorney.
I know.
Okay. We want you, and we're gonna we're working on it. Yeah.
I'm talking about
literally right now. I know, right? As you can see, these are not the corrupt people.
So another question that, you know, talking about the office itself. So if you became aware of an unethical behavior or conduct by one of the prosecutors that's going to be working for your office, what is it that you're going to do?
Yeah, so there's zero tolerance for that. The amount of power that an assistant state attorney has is incredible. It really is. And you have to make sure that people are utilizing that power fairly, correctly. And if they play games or they misuse it in any way, I have zero tolerance for that. They will be gone. They will be fired. And I'm all about action speaking louder than words. And I personally have fired many prosecutors because I felt like they were playing games. And we don't do that. You know, the way it works is that whatever evidence we get, we give to the defense. Everything we get, they have. And where strategy comes into play is how you use the evidence, not whether or not it exists. And if we have people who are not showing what we have, that's inexcusable. You know, it would be a basic nightmare for me if I convicted an innocent person. I do not know what that would feel like. I would probably quit my job, honestly. That is terrifying to me. And so if a law enforcement officer puts me in that position and I find out about it, that law enforcement officer did something and gave me fake evidence, oh, hell no. That guy will be prosecuted. And if an attorney that works for me is doing the same thing, that is a reflection on me. You know, whatever an assistant state attorney does, it reflects on all of us. And there is no, you know, brotherhood or protect your own. Hell no. If you do and play with people's lives, you do not deserve the title of assistant state attorney.
No, they don't deserve to work for you, Deborah.
No. Drop the mic. I love that.
Drop the mic. Great. Okay, so as you said, it's a zero. So let's talk about the zero tolerance. So it goes both ways, towards the office and towards, what about criminals? Zero tolerance all the way.
Well, so here's the thing. People in the community need to be able to feel safe.
Yes.
Right.
That's my job. As state attorney, I need to keep the community safe. And that means for all people. So if somebody is accused of a crime, they have to feel, and they're wrongfully accused of a crime, they need to feel safe that the state attorney's office is going to drop it. And if somebody committed a crime and we can prove it beyond reasonable doubt, you know, victims need to feel safe that we are going to go after them. And when it comes to violent crime, yeah, you know, if you are terrorizing our community, I mean, I see people who commit 7 armed robberies. You know, they're holding a gun to somebody 7 different times in our community to get money or to get whatever. You're a menace to our society, and I need to put you away because you can't be amongst us. Yes. But if you're somebody who, you know, I don't know, stole something from somewhere, you know, not the crime of the century, and we need to recognize that we can have programs. We have these things called diversion programs where if you do a certain amount of things like community service, or you pay a fine, or you write a letter of apology, once you do that, we will drop your case so that you don't have a criminal record. And those are for the people that, you know, you made a mistake, but you're a productive member of society. I don't want to give you a criminal record because being a convicted felon matters. You know, if you're convicted of a felony, that stays with you your entire life. It affects your job. It affects your family. It affects your future. And I understand what that does to people. And so we have to make sure that we're getting it right and that we're appropriate in terms of, you know, what is justice for the individual crime and the individual circumstance. And I believe that prosecutors need to have a lot of discretion in order to get that right, because, you know, circumstances are different depending on the case. And that's, you know, one of the things I love about my job is every case is different. Every fact pattern is different. I mean, it is not boring. I can tell you that.
I can see that. Yeah,
nothing about our conversation has been boring.
Vyky, I promise you, this is the last question I'm going to ask Deborah.
Oh, okay? Fine. Go ahead.
Last question. Okay. So, Deborah, President Roosevelt in the past said, no one is above the law and no one is below it. What does that quote mean to you?
That's a great quote.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. It's probably why they were president. To me, that means everyone is treated equally. There's nobody above, there's nobody below. We, in the eyes of the criminal justice system, you have to be treated equally. It doesn't matter your gender, your race, your sexuality, nothing. It is, you are a human being and you are a citizen of our community, and you are going to be treated fairly no matter who you are.
Good answer. Good answer.
Drop like the mic again, Deborah. It's just like I don't need to ask you
How
anything else. But
are we gonna get?
So far we've dropped 3. I'm going for a 4th. I'm hoping for a 5th, but we'll see where we get to. Deborah, I'm loving all of these conversations, but I have to ask you, you were just talking about different programs, about implementing different programs and trying cases on a circumstantial basis. But I want to know, as a state attorney, what programs and policies would you implement to reduce crimes and increase public safety?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first and foremost, the Government Accountability Unit, and I know I previously talked about that, but that would be something new to the office, to this administration, so that we can get that up and running. I also I'm a big fan of diversion programs. I like the idea of giving people second opportunities and even third opportunities, you know, depending on the circumstances. And so I think that diversion programs are important. What I see now is that sometimes people can't go into a diversion program because of the nature of their crime, which I would like on certain crimes, I'd like to change that. Here's what I mean by that. It's kind of cryptic. So let's just say somebody committed an employee theft and they stole $5,000. Well, under the current diversion program, you have to pay half of that restitution back to the victim before you can start the program. And so a lot of people can't do that. They need time in order to do that because, they're stealing money in the first place because they don't have any. So
right.
It's going to take some time. So I would like to implement something that's called deferred prosecution. And what that means is prior to entering diversion, we continue the case to give those people more time so that they can get those resources so that they can eventually enter the diversion program, make the victim whole again, learn their lesson, because it's not going to be easy. They will actually be, they will be punished for it, but we can then erase that from their record in terms of dropping the case so that they can go on to live as productive members of society, because that's the goal. You screwed up, but we don't want you in this pattern for the rest of your life if we can help it. And I think that's really important to the community. So I would add the deferred prosecution component to diversion programs as state attorney.
Wow, that's incredible, because you already have a plan, and I like your game plan a lot.
Plans, not one plan. We've heard
multiple plans. I like all of your plans, but it's a blueprint that she has planned, and so technically it's planned. Anyway, but Deborah, I know right now the temperature of the country is different than it's ever been, and me being a biracial individual and having two sons, I find myself having conversations with my 13-year-old that I just don't want to have to keep having. And I don't want him to have with his future son, and so on and so forth. And I'm trying, what I want to communicate is, could you explain to us why it's so important to make sure that we have the right state attorney?
Yeah. And yes, I can't imagine what being a parent in this environment and what you're going through, and parents across the way. I mean, it is
exactly
it's dangerous. It's a real danger. And so just to speak on that issue briefly, I feel like I talk a lot, so I'll say briefly.
No. We want to hear this, Deborah. We want to hear it.
Okay, so in my opinion, what needs to happen is there's a statute out there, and it's called Statute 112, and what it's called is the Officer's Bill of Rights. And essentially what it does is it gives officers a series of rights that, in my opinion, make it very difficult for them to be fired. And here's what I mean by that. There is a subsection of that statute that says if they're accused of misconduct, they have the opportunity to review every witness statement, every piece of evidence, every video in advance of them going in for their interview. And so what I have seen is that, or in my opinion, I should say, that gives officers the time and the ability to excuse away bad behavior a lot of time. That's no way to conduct an investigation. I mean, what you want to do is you don't want to tell them the evidence that you have. And this is what I do with civilians is, heck no, we don't tell you what we have, and we bring you in for an interview and we either catch you in a lie or, we ask you what's going on. And the interview is a huge component of the investigation, and it needs to happen with them in the dark because you want to know how truthful they are, because the quickest way for a law enforcement agency to get rid of a bad officer is based on truthfulness. If they can show that they lied, then boom, they can be gone. And I think that this statute and those rights for officers, I look at it the same way I look at prosecutors. When we have so much power, we need to be held to a higher standard. And when officers are allowed to carry firearms and arrest people, what are we doing? Giving them every benefit of the doubt and making sure that they're as prepared as possible before they go into an interview to ask about their misconduct. That's outrageous to me. That should not happen. And so I think, you know, as state attorney, one of the first things I'm going to do is lobby the legislature to change that, so that immediately we can get rid of bad officers. That obviously doesn't address systematic racism or any other of the huge topics that need to be talked about and addressed. But I do think it's culture,
a stepping stone.
It is. And hopefully it shows the other police officers that this is unacceptable. And when you see people getting fired for misconduct, it sends that message, rather than, you know, they come into an interview, they explain it away. Everybody knows that they're lying, but, you know, there's not enough to terminate them, and they still work on the police force. So, yeah, we need to change that. And
it was just like with what you were just saying, that there's bad people everywhere in any, or there's not good people in a lot of different areas of work. I mean, doctors,
whatever the profession is, people are going to be,
there
are bad people everywhere.
I'm just going to throw it
but
out.
Giving somebody I didn't want to say it, but you said it. But giving somebody a leg up to be able to communicate themselves differently so that you can't catch the bad ones. I think what you're saying is that you're going to make things more fair and, again, more just, which I think is important. And we're seeing how important it is right now. And to see that you do have a plans in place. You're welcome. I think is really amazing, because me as just a regular citizen, I don't know what I can do, and, you know, trying to figure out what can be done. I don't know what can be done, but having a conversation with you and seeing that there may be some things that could get us started and on a different track, and on a different track that could be the right track ultimately, is really encouraging.
Exactly.
Good.
And I think we do have a question from a viewer. Vyky, do you see it?
I do. Let's go ahead and go into a question from our viewer. Let me go ahead and do this.
AJ Fowinkle.
AJ Fowinkle says, love the discussion. Deborah, how would you balance your zero tolerance stance versus compassionate accountability?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So, and that's where our discretion comes in. When I'm talking about zero tolerance, I'm talking about zero tolerance in terms of who you are. When you commit a crime, like, I don't care who you are, and if you commit a crime, you're going to be held responsible. The next step in that is, what does that look like? What is being held responsible for your behavior? And that's where discretion comes into play, in terms of, well, let's look at the circumstances. You know, if this person, and I'll just throw out, let's say this person committed a petty theft, and they are looking at being deported, and you know, they've been in the country for 30 years, and with an adjudication, their home and their family and loved ones are gonna, you know, they're gonna lose that. You know, that is something that we 100% need to look at as a prosecution, in terms of, okay, here's what my sentence is, and here's what it means. You always have to ask the why. Why are we doing this? What are we hoping to achieve? And so if, you know, getting somebody on a petty theft is worth that person being separated from their family for the rest of their life, you know, that's not equal, and that's not just, and that's not fair. And so that's when discretion comes into play, and the compassion part of it, in terms of seeing the full picture, because these aren't just case files, these are human beings, and their history, their circumstances matter. And that's why I love being a prosecutor. You know, I have a lot of friends who are defense attorneys, and I ask them, you know, why a defense attorney? And they would say, well, I want to help people. And that's very true. They do. They help a lot of people. But I always viewed it, if you really want to help somebody, be a prosecutor, because I don't have to ask anybody for anything. I don't have to rely on anybody else. I can see a case, and if I believe that there was police misconduct, when I read the fact pattern, I don't have to wait for the defense to file a motion saying that there's police misconduct. I can drop it right then, and then I can report them to IAs. And if it rises to the level of a crime, I can bring forth charges on that individual. And I can do that all myself because I'm a prosecutor. And so I think that compassion is a huge component of it, because again, it's public safety, and that means everybody has to feel safe, whether you're accused of a crime or not. And I really feel like I can bring that to the table based on my experience and what I've seen and what I've witnessed and the cases that I've prosecuted and the sentences that I've recommended, because it's all about fairness. And AJ, I know that was a really long answer to probably a simple question. So I apologize if that was long-winded.
It was perfect. It was perfect because, again, Rania and I both know that you are the best candidate for state attorney of the 9th Judicial Circuit. Boom, I did it. I deserve my drop for that one. Thank you. And I know that you've given, thank you, Rania. And I know that you've given us multiple different reasons or multiple different qualities that you possess that make you the best candidate. And I don't even know what else you can say, but I just wanted to see if there was anything else that you had, because I know you have a slew of questions in that amazing brain and head of yours. So what qualities do you possess that make you the best candidate for the office of State Attorney of the 9th Judicial Circuit?
Okay. I don't know if you heard that lightning strike.
It is. No. I did. It's like happening right. It took away all of my natural light. And yes, I'm right there with you.
Okay. So quality. So here's what I think separates me from the rest of the field is that I have been a prosecutor in Orange and Osceola counties for 17 years. I interned at that office and I never left. I essentially grew up there. And as a result, I've gotten to know, the judges, law enforcement, the defense bar, and that's important because relationships are important. If you ever want to get something done, you cannot be your own island. And you have to reach out to people. You have to get help. And so you need people skills, quite honestly, in order to be an effective leader. I also have more management experience than all of my opponents in that, I served under 3 different elected state attorneys. And what's great about that from my perspective is that if we could have 3 polar opposites, I mean, I know that that's not a thing with 3, but if we could, they are
tri-opposites.
Yeah. I mean, they really are in terms of what their vision of being a state attorney is and what they stand for. And so I've got to see, what works and what doesn't. And nobody else has that experience. And for the past 3.5 years, I've been doing and running the day-to-day operations in terms of I have learned the ins and outs of the office. Because what a lot of people don't recognize is that, we are an organization of over 400 people. And we have a budget of $26.2 million right now. And so you're running a company as well as being a prosecutor and an attorney. And so you need to have that experience. You need to know how to turn the lights on. You need to know, the functioning. And I bring that to the table. And so I think to really kind of go down to the basic level, I think it's my experience. I think it's my people skills. And honestly, I think it's my passion for what I do. You need to have an elected state attorney who can motivate the younger people. And who will want to follow you, because a leader is nothing without followers. You have to have people get excited about it, to understand that they are public servants and that their one and only job is to do the right thing. And I think that's what I bring to the table.
Perfect answer.
I had to do it again. I think we're at 4 right now. I think. Well, I mean, I had maybe 1. if we are going to be grouping ours, then we're at 5. Since I had 1, Deborah, you've had 4, but I think we're still going to be able to get 1 more in. I'm not sure. I'm just shooting for the moon right now. That was an amazing, amazing answer. And I mean, you pretty much summed, it's just mic drop. I just don't even know what to say. And so my next question would be, what else is it that you want the voters to know? But is there anything specific that you want the voters to know about you or the upcoming election day, August 18th?
Yeah, just this, a lot of people are focused on November, which I get that. Believe me, I'm focused on November as well. But this is kind of like a little election in terms of the
but a really important one.
Yes, and I was just going to say, but in terms of your daily lives, it's probably way more important than November. And here's what I mean. If something were to happen to you or your family member, and God forbid, I don't want this to happen, but say in 2 weeks, the state attorney's office becomes that entity that is the most important entity in your life. If you were a victim of an armed robbery or a carjacking or a sex crime, it matters who we are, because we are the voice for you. And you need to make sure that the person who is handling your case has a strong voice and has the training and knows what they're doing, because, victims get one shot at justice, one shot. And we have to be prepared for that. And so this election, most people don't know who we are or what we do until something happens. And then it's like, oh my God, who is the elected state attorney? And what is, I need you now. And don't wait until you need us for it to be important. Like, do your research. And I want people to research the other candidates. I'm not going to say their names because it's really not important, but do it, do the research. And I'm confident that when you see what's out there, that you're going to know that I'm the best choice for this, because we need somebody with energy, the experience to go after people that need to be go after, and the people who don't, we need compassion, and we need that level of experience to be able to do that. So yes, please vote. Please be informed in voting. It always worries me when people are like, just vote. Like, I don't know, maybe read something about the candidates first.
I mean, possibly do a little bit of research. Possibly.
Deborah, what you just said just definitely resonated with me. So I was a victim of domestic violence in the past. And what changed my life is the prosecutor that took the case. She was the most important person in my life for 2 years. I was waiting, like I would hold the phone and wait for her to call me. Like I wanted to hear from her. And she changed my life. She changed my children's life. I didn't even have my bachelor's degree then. She was my inspiration to become an attorney.
Wow.
So even you, Deborah, you don't know how many people I know you know how many people you helped change their life, but you don't know the extent that what you do did for their future, or how it changed their life.
How far it reaches.
I know. The only thing I can say, Deborah, thank you. And to my prosecutor who took my case, thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
So that is why it's very important, because just like you said, you don't know how a prosecutor becomes important, and they will be the number one person in your life for the entirety of however the case takes long. Mine took 2 years. Wow. So yeah, it's very important, extremely important.
Yes. So please vote. Please be informed when you vote, and let's do this. Let's change things. Let's get it done, because I can't wait to get started.
And another mic drop
for you to get started, and another 2 mic drops.
Seriously, guys, if you are just joining us for any reason at all, on the screen right now, you'll see a website circulating that is deborahbarra2020.com. To get to know any more information, or if you feel like you caught the tail end of something, of course, you can replay this video. But go and get informed. Get informed, and remember, August 18th is an important day for you because it's going to be something that directly affects you. And again, as both Rania and Deborah said, do it before you need it. Do it before it becomes important to you.
Late.
Before it's too late. That's a great, exactly. Deborah, it has been an absolute honor and a privilege to listen to you and to get to know a little bit more about you. Thank you so much for joining us today on Words from Behind the Desk.
Well, thank you guys. It has been a pleasure, and you guys are amazing and awesome. And I've got to know you through this process, and I'm so happy that I have. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and let's all vote.
Yes. Go, Deborah.
Guys, if you guys go, Deborah. If you guys have any questions or comments at all for Deborah specifically, you can always reach out directly to her or go ahead and email us at manager@arwanilawfirm.com. And next week we have another amazing guest joining us, and we will be back here next Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on Facebook or YouTube, whichever one you're watching us on. But until then, guys, we wish you nothing but happiness and health. And since we are local and this weather is going crazy right now, please make sure that you're safe out in the rain as well.
And wear masks.
And wear masks. Thank you, Rania. And other than that, guys, we will see you guys next week. Rania, always a pleasure.
Deborah, thank you so much. And thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. Take care, you guys. Be safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And